about it for a moment. Or if one knows someone who's not well, to send them the very best that one can, to imagine that every being has all the resources and fulfillment that they need. The more we can do this, the more we will literally be able to control our mind, because the imagination is an important faculty that is oftentimes overlooked. And Madame Blavatsky said it's like, really important. It's almost like a king faculty. We want to feel for what others may attain, like be happy for them when they get something, instead of that pang of jealousy, oh, I wish I had that. To be genuinely happy for that other person, to find a way to enrich their lives, to insert whatever we have, to contribute whatever resources we have into an expanding circle of human, and not just human, but the whole life of interdependence, growth, and expansion. So we want to be authentic about this, which means maybe we've thought about it and we want to enact it, but talking about it all the time might dispel that energy prematurely. So there's this idea of maybe being silent, sort of gestating that thought internally, and erring on the side of not saying too much, of sending the thought without all the words, of putting our trust in others that they will understand and catch on to our positive wishes and beneficence for others. Control of speech is a precondition for a lot of moral growth. There's been many religious sects over history who took vows of silences, and it was precisely to sort of learn this, to keep that energy in a more potent mental form, perhaps. So if one is able to guard one's speech, one may be able to sort of extend the goodness or the beneficence in thought, keeps that energy at a higher level than just at a more material level. And this isn't to be like secretive, but it's just sort of healthy. Our intention should be, we should make it as clear as we possibly can by using the imagination. And make it as visible as we can. But of course, we need to be reasonable and we need to have wisdom. And so we don't want to like go overboard, but just to send that beneficence, even if it's just for one particular thing for one individual. The more one does that each day, the easier it'll be, the more of a habit it will become. So the more one sort of withholds one's speech, becomes reserved, it enables others to express themselves. And one will find that the words come to one in a timely and appropriate manner. It can become a golden key to maximizing our appropriate use of thought and beneficent energy. It means that one's trustworthy. I mean, no one would trust us if we told everybody everything, or we were indiscreet in our use of speech. One wouldn't be credible. So it means maybe rethinking one's relationship in terms of, from that journey from the head to the heart, maybe going internal and not coming out so much in the voice. So that what one does say is sort of a consecration, and it's important. It also means, listening to others, hearing what the need or the desire is behind their speech. And by doing these kinds of things and meeting a person at the level of soul, sort of the idea of namaste, recognizing the God within each person, seeing the light in each person's eyes. These are like subtle keys to alchemical transmutation, working towards the art of benevolence. And this is what Mahatmas and the rishis have known and practiced. Silence is always a precursor of effective beneficial action. In all sacred places, usually silence is observed because it aids the mind in control for appropriate use. Whatever is germinal, then we can see it and either allow it to flourish or maybe to prune it back. So there's this idea of maybe if we talk about something too early, too prematurely, before we've thought it through, it can draw on that energy and make it sort of used up, but not powerfully in the mental way. It's not maybe watering that plant properly, so to speak. So we just want to be conscious of it and to use our speech carefully, to help someone when they're going through a difficult time, to make reminders gently, and to see the best in other people. Sometimes this is difficult to do in relationships because we have an attachment to an image of someone or an image of how we use something. So one way we can try to let go of that is to confer equal trust on others, to share responsibilities and not distance ourselves based on some suspicions we might have or a mental image of them that we might have. All that stuff is illusion. All that mind story, those evaluations we make are just temporary. They're based on the lower mind. They're not real. We can just let those go once we become aware of them. Because we can't expand the circle without love, without assuming the best of others and extending that opportunity continuously. It's not always easy and it's not always automatic, but the more we do it, the easier it will become. What this is really doing is sort of renunciation. It's an act of renunciation and sacrifice. We're giving up on certain tendencies. We're embarking on new ground. It called for, a lot of self-introspection. We've put some thought into it. It's taking a risk. But the risks are not just on the potential good in oneself. It's on the potential good in others too. And one's helping to expand that circle of fellowship among all beings. And this is bringing thought and action to the noetic level, above the phenomenal. The noetic being, the higher mind, the level of the aspiration in need. What is it that all human beings, by nature of being human, all aspire or all need fundamentally? Love, the need for some private time, the need to be amongst others, to share, to contribute, to give to others. This is sacrifice and compassion at a very fundamental, everyday level. We can see this, we can do this in our family relationships and extend it out to friends in the community and ever widening concentric circles. Some other ideas that we want to keep in mind when considering possessions. We spoke about speech and somewhat about relationships, but any sort of property or space is relative. we're sharing it, we're using it, we're occupying it, but it's not ours. So the space that we enter, where we occupy with our thoughts and our elementals and our attitudes, we want to make it as beneficent, as safe, as respectful for other people as we possibly can. Whether it's physical space, our bodies, books, paper, our office, our school, our parks, whatever. And what this is sort of a mental exercise to keep everything at a more sacred level. We tend to have the idea that everything's disposable, or that other people will clean up after us, when we really need to be aware of that ourselves, to treat everything with respect and appreciation, and also for those who do the work of cleaning up after all of us, because we're all sharing that space, and in that way we have gratitude and we're all caring for our possessions and our resources. But what attitude or conduct would be compatible with this line of thought when it comes to finances or money? It's a medium that we use to meet our basic needs, but it need not be an end in itself. But one has to handle it with the care that we just spoke of. Same degree of care that we might exercise in relation to something more potent like a relationship or a power. It has its proper use, and there are lives that are invested in that material and in those exchanges, and it just should be used as appropriately as possible, as maybe used with the idea that it's fulfilling a need for us and for someone else in the future. We also have ideas about time as almost like an object, like my time or her time or his time. We have this idea that we're somewhat possessive or demanding in relation to time, because we say we've earned this time. And while this is true, it's another medium in which we can sort of apply these principles in terms of how do we use our free time? Do we use it constructively? Are we conscientious about it? Do we plan ahead? Is it coordinated? Do we dissipate our time through mindlessness or whatever? So time, to some degree, is a function of conscious attention to our duties. And the more attentive we are to ourselves and others, the more helpful we are with that time, with those resources. And the more we do this for others, we forget ourselves. Our troubles become largely forgotten, and we shift our focus and our awareness to the involvement of all human beings. It's interesting, in this article it said that to the yogin, private time is not an elementary human need, because for the yogin who's truly sacrificed compassionately for all, time is a continuous inward state of living in the eternal. There aren't these arbitrary divisions as we give them. So the more that we enact these ideas in our life, the more we can expand that moment of the ever-present now becomes the eternal.